Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Jason Heine. This is the Emulator Review. Thanks for hanging out with me today. So, in recent news, as of recording this, of course, British video game developer Eurocom recently called it quits. Crazy news here. On November 23rd, 2012, they laid off about 75% of their 200 employees, stating that it's due to a steep decline and demand for console games. They will now be focusing mainly on the mobile opportunities moving forward. Folks, they've gone mobile. And then, to put the final nail in the coffin, on December 6, 2012, the company then laid off the remaining staff and closed their doors. Very, very sad. Now, Eurocom was very, very popular back in the heyday of gaming. They were known for porting over some great arcade games to the consoles and PC. So what I want to do is put a little video together and put together my personal list of some of my favorite Eurocom games. Now, they either had a helping hand or solely part in creating these games on the console. So let's go ahead and roll out. It's in no particular order. Let's go have some fun and reminisce about these great games here. Coming out.
Eurocom Developments Limited Entertainment Software Games. Electronic fun for everyone.
With the classic Cruis'n World. Now, this was the only port that we got out of the arcades. This was only available on the Nintendo 64, released in 1998. Now, after quite a few negative and pretty much piss-poor reviews and ratings on the original Cruis'n USA, they wanted to set out to make a very good Cruis'n game in the series. So this is Cruis'n World, and this did get favorable reviews throughout. We now have up to 4 players racing. The sound is enhanced. There were more things on the screen. Looks like the graphics are a little bit better. And now you have the ability to pop wheelies and ride on 2 wheels. They see me rolling. And in development for this game, they wanted to make it an arcade-perfect port. However, the limitations of the Nintendo 64 were really just not able to do so. Some of the notable differences primarily are going to be related to the audio, whereas not all of the music is there exactly. But they actually added some new songs that weren't in the arcade port, so I guess that would be an enhancement. Being as it is on a console, we now have the ability to save and load and come back to your games whenever you feel like cruising the world. For me personally, it'd be such a hard one to pick between Cruis'n Exotica and Cruis'n World. I'd probably lean a little more towards Cruis'n Exotica just because of the maps. The courses in that game are awesome. But this is Cruis'n World. Coming up next is one of my all-time favorite game franchises. This is Duke Nukem 64. Ported to the Nintendo 64. While being a proper port of Duke 3D for the PC, it is altered a little bit for the Nintendo 64. The game does feature an amazing 4-player split-screen multiplayer mode that also features co-op. Hello, co-op! Love that. It's so much fun. Although the game is awesome in its own right with enhanced graphics and explosions, fire effects, and others, the game is altered quite a bit to avoid any drug or sex references. This game features parts of the Duke Nukem Plutonium Pack, which was an add-on that was released for the PC, to feature some parts in the Plutonium Pack, like Duke Burger. Unfortunately, some of the music was removed, but some other features were added, like dual submachine guns. Who doesn't love that? All the one-liners are still there. It's still good old-fashioned Duke, but without the things that make it so memorable. The drugs and the chicks. The strip club is unfortunately replaced with a Duke Burger, and the only meat we're going to see in here is good old-fashioned Duke meat. While, in my opinion, not being the best port of Hydro Thunder, this is definitely a notable one. This is Hydro Thunder on the Nintendo 64. Released just before the oh-so-amazing crash of Y2K, which never happened, of course, to all you youngins. This made an immense splash in my pool, and although this isn't my favorite port of Hydro Thunder, it does feature something the other counterparts don't. It has 4-player, split-screen multiplayer. That right there is worth the purchase. And even though the graphics aren't as sharp, it doesn't feature the high-quality audio that you get on the CD-ROM versions, I still think that Hydro Thunder on the Nintendo 64 is worth a mention. On top of all the arcade porting they were doing in the 90s, they were also in charge of porting over some key franchises, like Mortal Kombat. Here we are looking at Mortal Kombat 3. This is the PlayStation 1 port, and I have to say, I think it's arcade perfect. The control, the pacing, the audio, the sound, everything about it is just incredible. And yeah, I know it was ported over to the Saturn as well, and maybe it's equal or just as good, but for some reason, this PlayStation 1 port just really stands out to me. very crisp, it looks great, and it plays wonderful.
Finish him. Shang Tsung wins. Babality.
I know, it's crazy. Did you have any idea? I mean, they also ported over Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, Mortal Kombat 4, and Mortal Kombat Gold for the Dreamcast in 1999. That's what we're looking at right here. And it's a great game in its own right, an awesome fighter. At the time, I really wasn't a big fan of the whole camera angle and the whole open world three-dimensional virtua fighter style of gameplay, but it was cool to see the Mortal Kombat franchise evolve into new things. And although this isn't my favorite Mortal Kombat in the franchise, it's definitely worth a mention. Mortal Kombat Gold on the Dreamcast. Speaking of popular and key franchises, this is kind of the life and death of Eurocom. This is the James Bond franchise that they've had for many, many years, even dating back to 1991 when they ported James Bond Jr. on the NES and Super Nintendo. Starting out, I want to talk about 007, The World Is Not Enough for the Nintendo 64. And to be honest, I thought this game was awesome. I had such a great time playing it. Yes, of course, it doesn't top GoldenEye. I mean, how can you top the original GoldenEye? But for a sequel that was not done by Rare, I thought this was a really good hit in the park.
Good afternoon, sir. Can I help you?
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Ah, Mr. Bond. We have a safety deposit box waiting for you.
Yes, Mr. Bond. Your safety deposit box is ready for you in the privacy booth.
Good afternoon.
The gameplay was interesting, the controls were nice and tight, and I thought the writing was actually really good. It had great missions, objectives, even gadgets that you could use. I mean, Motorola even lent a hand and let them use some of their current cell phones at the time.
Take the money.
Your last chance. Give me a name.
You still threaten me, even without your weapon?
Yeah, okay, it's a little rough around the edges and the graphics don't really hold up at all in today's world, but the game is still great and the gameplay is spot on. As pissed as I was to hear that Rare wasn't doing the sequel, I was pleasantly surprised with 007, The World Is Not Enough. Eurocom was also in charge of the recent 2010 release GoldenEye 007 on the Wii. Now, this was slated as being a true successor and sequel to the original GoldenEye, and actually, it was pretty damn good. A lot of people enjoyed it. I personally enjoyed it. I loved the multiplayer and online, and the campaign experience was great. I'm telling you, to get something like this on your Nintendo Wii is definitely a treat. Taking the Wii to its limits, I thought the graphics were really outdone. The audio was really nice. Great music, great score throughout. Great missions, weapons, and items to use. The game is great, and I highly enjoy it. Speaking of Bond, they were also in charge of the 007 Reloaded, which is basically the Wii version, but for the 360 and PS3 in HD. Some small subtle changes here and there, but mostly it's an HD version of the game that the 360 and PS3 owners were desperately craving. And now for the tip of the iceberg, folks. This is the game that pretty much tipped him over the edge here. This is 007 Legends. This was released October 2012 here in North America, and it was available on the 360, PS3, Wii U, and Windows. The purpose behind this game was to celebrate James Bond and his 50 years of being in film. The idea was to take parts of the film and then turn them into missions that you can play in the game. But upon its release, it got bashed pretty hard by video game reviewers and fans alike, saying that the Bond series is drowned out and the iconic moments are cheap and poorly made, calling it a Call of Duty clone. Later stating that the gameplay was boring and repetitive, and that the production was a half-hearted attempt to bind the recreation of films together. Some reviews stating that the game's story offered little incentive to keep playing. Game Informer states, a mess of a title that's uninspired at best and nearly broken at worst. Other quotes, truly awful. Feels like a low-budget knockoff of Call of Duty. and a bit repetitive. The player does not feel challenged. And I'll be honest, I didn't pick this up when it came out. I didn't want to pay full $60 retail when I just knew that it would be on sale on Steam or on Amazon a month or two down the road. So I didn't want to shell out $60 for it. So I waited. I went today to try to purchase it, thinking it might be on sale. I couldn't even find it. As a matter of fact, look, here's a shot of me looking for it on Steam. It doesn't even show up in the search. I can't find it. Now, before I went in and added the game when it was available on my wish list. So it's still on my wish list, and when I click on that, I can go into the forums, discussions, screenshots, all that sort of thing. But when I click on the store, it sends me right back to the main page on Steam. It's just pulled completely. As a matter of fact, all of the James Bond games are pulled out of Steam. So I went to dig a bit further. I went to Amazon. Sure enough, it's not available. Completely pulled for digital download. I then went a step further and went to Activision's website to see if I get support for that. And sure enough, there's the 007 icon. But when I click on it, it is completely gone. I have no idea where it is. I don't know if them shutting down Eurocom has anything to do with this, but man, where has it gone? It's just kind of a disgrace to see. You know, it's just the trials and tribulations of the world that we live in today. Even though they were around for years and years, making great games, all good things must come to an end. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.